Welcome to a podcast unlike any other. Presented by the Central Pennsylvania Music Hall of Fame. In support of our local music scene. It's the Central Pennsylvania Music Podcast. Tonight's guests, Barry Atticks. And Dead Horse Revival. This episode is sponsored by PA Musician Magazine. And now, your hosts, Daniel Kime and Alan McCutcheon.
All right, this week's guest, we have Barry Atticks. Barry is a lot of things, doctor or PhD, professor at Millersville.
Part-time Power Ranger, part-time Beetleborg. If you ask him what his credentials are, his answer's all of them.
Yep, Central Pennsylvania Music Award winner as a professor, I believe, right? What else? Central Pennsylvania Music Award for your band, Monstrum or Mobstrum. Keep messing that up.
We both. It's so creative, like the way you came up with the name, but I can't say it. It's
Mobstrum.
It's Norwegian, so it's okay. Yeah.
And then you also set up you set up the music industry program at Drexel. You created that.
That's correct. Yep.
I'm just like. Sorry, everyone, but then I'm sitting here, this. Like, we were literally just making jokes while we were talking off camera. This guy's resume's got to be like 18 pages. 16 pages are just like education, accomplishments, things he's done, and then he's like hobbies, all of them as well.
So, I mean, it's honestly a pleasure to have you on here.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Of course. Thanks for coming. I mean, it's always awesome to get to meet somebody like you. You drove quite a ways to be here, and we're very happy about that. And it looks like this year you are on the ballot to be inducted into the Central Pennsylvania Music Hall of Fame. We were just talking about your resume, your past, your history, and the present even. Where did this all start for you? At what point did you get into this?
When I was 4 years old, I started taking piano lessons.
Okay.
At age 5, started playing drums, and I just got so into music, and I never looked back after that.
That's amazing.
You just knew.
I just knew I had to do it, So, of course, when you go to college, your parents are like, well, we support you, but I'm not sure this is going to be lucrative for you. So I was a business major, but I'm like, you know what? Screw it. I'll take a second major, do music as well. So then I just got on a train of getting to engineering. So I took my first class ever in electronics at Hack after I had my degree. Got so into it, I'm like, you know what? I have to go to Berkeley in Boston, just do nothing but study music engineering. I was just so passionate about it, and just kept going since then.
So did you go to Berkeley?
I went to Berkeley,
yeah. He went to Berkeley.
Yeah.
That's
so
what I'm saying.
Great, man. Boston's a great town.
So you've been you're a Central Pennsylvania native. You grew up in Harrisburg.
Yep. Central Dolphins High School, proud.
Oh my gosh.
Go Rams.
Go Rams.
Yeah, go Rams, baby.
Ooh, that hurts me because I'm Lord Dolphin. So
I'm sorry. Yeah.
I'll forgive it.
Okay,
forgive it. Only because it's you, Barry. Only because it's you. It's okay.
I was homeschooled. Go me.
That explains a lot.
First in your class, right? I mean,
yeah.
Okay, good. Yeah, okay.
First in your class. Valedictorian right here.
Teacher's favorite.
Right there. Yeah.
Oh my God.
So you've traveled around a lot. You've done a lot of things. Like I said, Central Pennsylvania native. You moved to Boston.
And then New York.
And then you went to Norway.
And then I lived in Norway for a year.
But you were in LA before that.
I was in LA before I went to Norway. So yeah, I've been around the block a little bit.
Yeah. Once or twice.
Yeah.
Tasted a little bit, a couple of the flavors of the world.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
That's wild. So all right. So preface, guys, real quick nerd moment. I'm going to bring this up. So when you were in LA, for all the other fellow nerds out here, could you tell us what you were doing for part-time work when you're out in LA?
Well, so between music gigs, I was looking for some money. So I thought, you know what? I'll look at the paper, see if there's any ads. So I used this agency, and they got me a gig of being a Piranhatron on Power Rangers, being one of the Queen's evil henchmen. I had no idea that was going to happen, but I thought it was pretty cool. I had never watched the Power Rangers, but I've heard of them from my younger nieces and nephews. But I was like, hey, let's jump on the Power Ranger train, and I had such a great time. It was awesome.
So you were definitely the coolest uncle at the next family
It
gathering.
was definitely cool. Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Yeah, and then right after Power Rangers, you actually did some work on Beetleborgs.
Beetleborgs. Also did a couple Showtime movies as well. Just being extras between. Hey, you need money between gigs, so that's what I did. So
that's just
amazing.
That's,
You're a Central Pennsylvania Jason Nash.
There we go. Yeah.
That's exactly what he is. All right, so I'm gonna tell the inner geek in me to like calm down. I just wanted to get that on record, and for all the other fellow nerds out there that I know will also be watching this. Yeah, dude, that's crazy. I get to sit with this guy. I'm just, but outside of that though, back to your music stuff. So you did your doctorate in Norway, correct?
Yeah, as
Your-
part of
your
my
doctorate dissertation.
I was at Penn State
Mhm.
doing my coursework there, and then I did my dissertation doing research in surround sound and 3D animation in Norway. So
That's
that was really fun. Yeah.
I just got to ask, how did you like find the time to do all of these things, have all these accomplishments, and then still, and I don't mean this as an insult, I mean this as like as a sign of respect. Like,
Yeah.
how did you accomplish all this and then still even have time to focus on some kind of like a personal life then, like to meet someone, have, because you're just it's
Caffeine.
caffeine.
They got me through, man. Without Starbucks, I don't know how I would have made it. So yeah.
That's just that
You have
you're
Starbucks in Norway?
Yes, they did Starbucks in Norway.
It's
yeah.
just a little bit more metal though.
A little more metal, a little
Yeah.
more caffeine. So
little more black metal.
yeah,
You-
more like Death Wish there than you know.
have to pull a couple spike studs out of your
Yeah.
coffee that might drop in there. No offense to anyone from Norway, beautiful country. I'm just making jokes here. That's crazy. So you've done all of these things, and now you're a professor at Millersville University. What's next for you? Like what do you see in your next chapter, like moving forward?
Wow, it's really hard to say. The last 3 years, I've directed some music videos with our students, so that's been a lot of fun. This year, we're also introducing virtual reality into teaching. So students will be in a virtual recording studio. So there's not enough room for all the students to be in a studio at one time, so they just put the goggles on and they can move patch cords around. They can mix. They can do everything like that. So that's the next level of education of actually going into the VR world. So that's the project for this year, and also looking forward to working again as a music supervisor, writing some tunes for a documentary coming out next year. So dabbling in that.
We can't get any snippets or more information on that.
I'm going to dabble in that a little bit. About 5-6 years ago, Ricky's Promise was a documentary that won awards for talking about what it was like as the Asian experience of being adopted in the United States. So I got to be the music supervisor for that. So this will be another one with the same director, Chang Fu Chang. So looking forward to that. But in my spare time, though, I am a high school and college football referee, so I do that because I want more abuse. So that's why I do that for because
Wow.
yeah, you just want more stress.
Yeah, so
I didn't even know you had spare time.
yeah, so that's it. Actually, I'll tell you what, that's the only time during the week that I actually put my cell phone in my car, and it's 3 hours of uninterrupted like fun and concentration. It's like the only time I get away from like everybody for 3 hours.
So that's almost like your like sensory deprivation tank right there.
That
Like,
is right there. Yeah. That's totally
when
it.
you have to be
I
watching
understand
every
that.
single movement of every, I just gotta say, I'm astounded that you've lived a life that having to do that, having to concentrate on football players maybe making mistakes and listening to comments, you're like, that's soothing. That's my relaxation.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
I love
crazy.
that.
Well, I think when your whole life is music, sometimes you just need a break to do something totally not with music, and that's my go-to.
sense.
So are you?
That's my football nerd thing.
I take it you're a sports fan then, a football fan, correct?
Big football fan.
What's your team?
I can't discuss that right now. I might get beat up in the parking
Oh,
lot.
come
so
on.
I mean,
We'll
any
talk about
answer's
it off
fine
air.
as long as it's the
okay, we'll
birds.
talk about it off air.
Any answer's fine as long as it's the birds.
Well, no. He's a ref. He has to be. Remain,
I'm impartial right
Yes,
now.
he totally has to-
I'm impartial.
Exactly,
We'll
yep.
talk about it off air.
All right,
okay, we'll
off
talk
air.
about it
I'll
off air.
pass.
That's
okay.
fair. That's fair.
All right.
I mean NFL. So for
NFL,
the
right?
viewers. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
okay.
Wow. So and now currently, so you're a professor at Millersville University.
Correct. Yep.
And you're currently teaching what program right now?
So I direct the music industry program. So specifically, I teach courses in music production, film scoring, recording, and things like that. So in our program, you can concentrate either in live audio production, music production, or music management. So business, live audio, or studio.
Okay. Do you have any students that or have you had students that have gone on to do incredible things that were kind of like your star?
Some
pupil?
of these students are absolutely amazing and so proud of them, and that makes like teaching all worthwhile. I mean, I had one student, I think it was 2019. He graduated on a Saturday. On Wednesday, he was on the Ariana Grande tour, so he got to tour like 30 countries in 3 months and tour the world and hang out with Ariana and things like that. So that was awesome for him. This past year, one of my students graduated. They were then on the road with Greta Van Fleet this summer. One was with the Doobie Brothers, Chicago. Chicago. I mean, so it's just like seeing these students like come right out of school and have great jobs. Unlike, when I started in the music industry, I'm sweeping floors at a recording studio in New York for $3 an hour, moving your way up. And that's what it was. But now,
just hoping for your chance.
Yeah, but live audio right now, that's where it's at, because so many artists for during COVID couldn't tour, and that's the majority of the income for artists is touring.
Yep.
So once COVID was over, everybody's out there touring, and they need people. So they're plucking people from schools, and anybody can go out and tour to help them out. So it's a big business right now.
Yeah,
That's
I mean,
wild.
the lineups you see right now, these shows and these festivals and these concerts are just insane. I mean,
They're massive.
You're seeing names you haven't seen in years.
Long time, yeah.
Exactly. And a lot more with technology advancing, social media advancing. We're seeing a lot more artists get the opportunity to promote themselves and get out there. And just there's so much. It's great to see the industry grow, and that's something that you yourself have done, especially in the local area, and that's why you're here.
Right.
Because
You
you're-
single-handedly help grow this community musically, entertainment-wise, everything. I mean, I don't want to cut you short here because I know we're going to have to wrap it up here in a little bit. But if I could ask you one thing, it's for anyone that wants to do or even try to aspire to even be a fragment of what you are, what you've done. What's one piece of advice that you could give them?
I think it's discipline, having a goal and doing it every day. Just like to give a football example. I mean, even in the off season, every day I study every day, 7 days a week to do it, because you need to be better.
Yep.
So no matter what you decide to do, you got to practice every day. You got to,
It's repetition, death by redundancy, man.
Yeah, and we had Joe Hoekstra, who was the guitar player for Whitesnake and Night Ranger. He's touring with Cher and Trans-Siberian Orchestra. He came to our school one time, and some kid said, "Hey, when you have 2 weeks off during break between tours, what do you do?" He said, "I practice 8 hours a day. That's how I become the best and do it." So
That's insane.
And that's something that's very true. I remember, having a manager tell me one time in my personal career, I'm in sales, and he told us kind of a similar story about Tom Brady. He's like, Tom Brady's the best. Think that guy takes a break from practicing? Absolutely not. He practices every year. He will probably, whether you like the guy or not, go down in history as the greatest of all time. Absolutely will be in the Hall of Fame of the NFL. And he never stops practicing. So why should you?
It's focus, practicing, and if you do that, then you'll be successful.
Absolutely. It's one of those things where it sounds cliche, but you have to invest in yourself.
Right. You do. Yeah.
It's true. Well, Barry, I mean, I want to wish you all the best of luck with the induction or the ballot to be inducted, and I hope this is your year. I hope for sure, because if it is, I look very much so forward to having you back on and congratulating you and talking all about the award ceremony and everything. Bottom line is, I think we're going to have you back on again sometime soon.
Thank you. Yeah, it's had a great time. Thank you guys.
Of course,
this has been awesome meeting you guys.
Yeah,
it
of course.
was
Actually,
a pleasure.
Before we wrap up, I did want to ask one more question. Actually,
Sure. Yeah. Okay.
We got bonus question.
Yes,
Okay.
bonus question.
Bonus question.
Bonus question was
Extra,
Daniel.
extra credit.
Yeah.
Here we go.
I want to ask, is there, and I guess the question is there anything in your career you've achieved so much? Is there anything that you haven't achieved yet that you have on your bucket list of something that you want to achieve in your career?
Oh, that's a good bonus question.
Actually, yes. There is something that hopefully at some point I will do. I want to write a Broadway show.
That would be amazing.
That's so if I ever get a sabbatical for 6 months a year, write all the music and design, lighting, the show, the story, everything on a Broadway show. So
Barry, I think
it's a long-term goal,
got
but
goosebumps.
we'll see.
I have good news for you.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure you're the most credentialed person to do that. I don't think you even need to hire anyone else. You just need to pay yourself more to do all the things.
Yeah. Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate that.
You're
Yeah.
very
Yeah,
welcome.
okay.
I don't think you're gonna find
I just
anyone else.
need the time between my other gigs. So
Yeah, that's true.
If it happens, we'll get the tickets. We'll be there front row.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
I'd be happy to help.
Absolutely.
All right, sounds
absolutely.
good.
Well, Barry, I look forward to meeting you again and having you on the set again.
All right, thank you guys. Appreciate it.
Very
It's
well.
been
Thank
fun. Thank you.
That was great.
So we have the honor and privilege of sitting down with Dead Horse Revival. This is Corey and Scott, correct?
Yeah, I'm Scott Matlock. I play fiddle.
My name is Corey Woodcock. I play banjo with Dead Horse Revival.
So we got like the two most interesting instruments when it comes to bluegrass, specifically sitting right here.
Oh,
today.
by far.
By far. I mean,
Yeah,
'cause-
we're certainly biased, but we're right, too.
so I got to ask, what is the main difference between? Because I'm sure you get this all the time. What's the question I'm going to ask?
The difference between a violin and a fiddle?
That's exactly what it
we
was.
go.
Yep.
Yeah, I have heard that maybe once or twice.
For some of our viewers that might not know.
Well, the first thing that fiddlers usually do is start to tell jokes like you don't spill beer on a violin or the number of teeth the player has or something like that. But the real truth is it's just the music that you play on it. There is absolutely no difference between the instrument itself. It's
So they
just
are the same instrument.
It's the same instrument. It's just what you call it because of the music that you play on it. If you call it a violin in a bluegrass gig, people say, "Oh, are you snotty?" And if you call it, a fiddle but actually classical players pretty much call their instruments fiddle. Itzhak Perlman, greatest violinist in the world for years, called it a fiddle. So no difference.
That is by far, hands down, the best answer I ever got to that question. Now, is it true? I've heard some people have actually used, some artists have used violas, and they've called it a fiddle because they've played violas in bluegrass.
Well, I haven't seen too many people play violas in bluegrass. I guess there may be some. What a lot of people do is use a 5-string fiddle.
Okay.
So that gives you the flexibility. It's like playing a viola and a violin at once. You have the low C string.
You have the bigger range of the scale to be able to, okay.
Right. And I think maybe loosely people might just call it a fiddle, even if it was a 5-string or a viola or whatever. You might be right.
Okay, that makes sense.
It's a 5-string bass and a 4-string bass are still bass, right?
Yeah, right.
and so, and then we got Corey. If you can play a guitar, you can play the banjo, right?
Not necessarily.
No, I wouldn't say that.
Yeah, that's exactly what I wanted to set you up with.
Excuse me. Although I would say it also depends on the style. If you are playing bluegrass banjo, like the Scruggs style, the finger
Yeah, this
picking.
was really, we were talking about this off air. Please get into this because I didn't even know this was a thing, and I'm sure most of our viewers probably don't know either.
Yes, it's there's all different kinds of banjos. There's 4 strings, which are kind of tuned like a mandolin or something close to that. It's tuned in fifths, and they used to use that in like big orchestras and bands and stuff 100 years ago. But when people hear banjo, I mean, they're thinking of the Appalachian music and bluegrass. So it all really comes out of the 5-string or 3-string, in some cases, instruments that came over from Africa.
Really?
Yeah. And it's the thing that really makes it different is that short string that's got on the top, which is originally...
like where the tuning thing is like halfway down the neck compared to the rest.
Mm-hmm. Yep. It's usually on modern banjos, it's on the 5th fret. But it doesn't have to be. But basically that originally was the thumb string for the old style of playing. So it would give you kind of a rhythmic thing. But now, ever since the finger picking, Earl Scruggs kind of style, it's the drone string essentially, at least in his style. So it's giving you an extra note too on your real fast banjo rolls. And it's, that is kind of the characteristic that makes it all very different from a strummy kind of instrument like a guitar.
Got it.
Right.
Okay.
And you could probably tell them, for the people that don't know who Earl Scruggs is, if you're not a banjo player or bluegrass fan. People think of a guy named Bill Monroe as the father of bluegrass, but bluegrass didn't really exist until Earl Scruggs joined Bill Monroe's band and added that special kind of fast 3-picking drive-in sound of a banjo. You recognize bluegrass right away. If you don't have banjo, it's not bluegrass.
Yeah.
And it has to be played in that certain style, Scruggs style, where they play kind of that really fast drive-in 3-finger roll, and you hear it immediately. It just jumps right at you. And that's what makes it bluegrass.
That's really cool.
It's like the older style claw hammer, which is played just with your fingers, and it's like a lot of downstrokes and you use your thumb mostly on the 5th string. If the banjo player plays that style, it almost certainly will not be called bluegrass. Right. Even if everything else in the band is bluegrass, that's kind of the one thing a lot of times that I don't mean to put anybody down if they are in a band that does that, but
sure, yeah,
because clawhammer is its whole own thing that's wild in all kinds of different ways, but that is a lot of times what sets apart old time music and bluegrass music.
So is that what you would call it if they were playing that? Would you call it old time?
Old time.
Music,
yeah.
Okay. We share in the world of bluegrass. We share a lot of the same songs with old time bands. We play a lot of the stuff. The music came from the same part of the country.
Yep.
Right.
But there are some differences, and that's of course not the only difference. But as far as banjo goes, that's the big thing, you know.
Yeah.
So I gotta say, first off, thank you so much for that. I was not trying to make
Absolutely.
your whole part talking about the education of it, but I will tell you right now, when I was in a band, if you'd asked me about the history of microphones or something, or like how it wasn't a thing. So I gotta say, like, dude, hats off to you guys. You guys live and breathe like your genre and your art and your craft, because there's not many people we've had sit down that can do that. So thank you, and I'm sure the listeners are. But let's get into Dead Horse Revival. Let's talk about what you guys are up to. Let's talk about what you guys have done. So, I mean, you guys just released an album recently, All Hat No Saddle, correct? That's
Yes.
That's
Yes,
on
we did.
all the streaming services, right?
Yeah, all the streaming, Spotify, and
That's awesome.
yeah.
That's the first full length album with you guys put together, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, it's the first album. I'd be hesitant to call this one full length. It's kind of right in between an EP and a full length, but
Okay, yeah.
we kind of just had, a certain amount of tunes that we wanted to do, certain key songs, and we got those, and just kind of, I mean, that was it. We could really, make those sound the way we wanted to. So I think we're all pretty happy with how it came out.
So, and how did you guys meet originally? How did Dead Horse Revival start?
Well, three of us, Chance, our guitar player, who's not here now, and Corey and I played in a band called Mountain Ride. That was another bluegrass band. We played with another singer and bass player who were a married couple. And we actually had some pretty big regional success in Bluegrass Festival. We played some of the larger bluegrass festivals like Gray Fox
yeah.
and Delfest, Charm City Bluegrass. Traveled up and down the East Coast, played in the Florida Keys at a bluegrass festival, played up in Vermont at Fish's home bar, Nectar.
Yeah.
That's
So
awesome.
did a good bit of traveling and had some serious success with it. And then that band, as bands often do, broke up for whatever reason. But the three of us didn't want to let it go, so we put together. They had previously had been in a band. Corey and Chance had been in a band. You can talk about that before they ever got into Mountain Ride. So we didn't want to let it go. So we started playing together as a trio. Then added a bass player. Then got a different bass player. It morphed into being Dead Horse Revival, our original stuff.
Yep. It was Chance and I have been playing, it's probably been 10 years now that we started playing together. We've done all kinds of different stuff. Originally, the first band that we were in was called Whiskey Tree, and it was like...
Oh, that's such a good name.
I like that.
Thank
I
you.
like that a lot.
It was very... We were like power trio, and we were all kind of new at everything genre-wise.
Mm-hmm.
So it was very sloppy and like hard driving, but the heart was in the right place, I think.
Almost like a grunge version of, if there was such a thing, like a grunge version of bluegrass.
Yeah. I could definitely see that. And of course, when I say sloppy, I'm mostly talking about myself. I mean, because my parents played in a bluegrass band. My dad was a banjo player, so I
it's in
grew
your
up
blood.
hearing it, but I resisted it for many years. So I played other instruments first, and it wasn't really till I was in my mid-20s that I really started playing banjo and taking it seriously.
Sure.
So I kind of actually learned later than a lot of the banjo players that are, that we run into
Sure.
at different festivals.
But I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, he talked about his dad was a bluegrass banjo player, so he came by it honestly and had that tradition. And usually great bluegrass players are in families like that. It was, from the cradle. They were raised by their parents to know the tunes, to sing them. Totally not that way for me. I was trained classically, played in rock and folk and blues bands. Didn't even really try to play bluegrass until, 10 years ago, maybe.
You hear something that grabs you, and then you got to find out more about this kind of music. That's a lot of times how it works for people.
Yes, I mean, quickly, or not super quickly, but I mean, just real quick for our viewers, like, what was that hook that got you to go to bluegrass, to start playing your violin as a fiddle? And
actually, the biggest change for me was I went to fiddle camp for a guy named Mark O'Connor, who's one of the great bluegrass fiddlers and fiddlers in the world. Back in 2000, my wife sent me. We had started listening to some music that he and other people were involved with that got me into more newgrass, I would say, than bluegrass, like kind of the jammier end and different stuff than bluegrass. But I went to that camp and was really inspired. Met a lot of great bluegrass and country and different fiddlers, and thought this is pretty cool. I'd like to try it.
That's awesome.
that's definitely cool. I mean, I can't imagine I mean, you play guitar, Danny, but I mean, I don't play an instrument, so it's like it would be like me trying to I did screaming. Oh, but I really like the way that country artist sings, so I'm gonna try and put some country drawl in my voice. I can't do that. I mean, can you imagine being so good at an instrument like guitar, like you were, and then being like, I want to learn how to play this entirely differently?
I mean, I'm sure you guys will agree. I don't really play much music anymore. Unfortunately, I just have a lot of stuff going on. But it's not like riding a bike, but it is. It's one of those things where once you understand the anatomy and the basics, understanding the timing, the keys, and the notes, you can kind of venture almost anywhere with that.
Yes and no. I don't want to overstate how long it actually took me to become much good at bluegrass and improvised music.
Absolutely,
It was a matter of decades, really, and I'm still working at it.
Same here. I mean, seems
to be doing pretty good for you, though. You're not doing too terrible there.
I'm good for whole seconds at a time.
If you have a good foundation of music, I think then you can build on that, no matter what instrument or style you're playing.
Yeah.
But there is something to be said about, like a band that is touring together or that is playing 2-3 times a week. I mean, there's a reason they get so tight and they get so hot, picking wise, because they're just constantly playing. So if you get away from it, you're definitely gonna
get rusty
when you
yeah.
Mm-hmm. But you can always knock that off. You can always knock that rust off. But I've definitely noticed it. I mean, I certainly don't feel maybe as totally connected that way as I did when I was playing the most out,
sure.
A few years back. But it comes back. The more gigs you play, I mean, it just comes back.
Oh, absolutely.
Yep, exactly. I think that's kind of more the point I was making.
Yeah.
Because it's not like me playing. I play both acoustic and electric, and I've played a little bit of everything as far as, from metalcore to indie rock. And you learn those little things along the way, and what am I really even trying to say here?
Well, I think the common thread is craft and dedication to your art and wanting to get better, whatever genre of music it might be in. And the more time you spend doing it, and especially the more time you spend doing it in a band with other people where you learn each other's moves and learn how to give and take and listen, have big ears. That's really the biggest
I think
part.
that's what we had going for us, because in the last band we played in, there was the guitar and bass player, but then the three of us, Scott, Chance, and I, we were kind of the soloists, and on that side of things. So we really got good at communicating with each other and knowing where everyone was going to go a lot of the time.
Oh, sure, because especially if you guys are going to be people that you all are like, I'm going to have my time in the spotlight. You got to make sure you guys know when it's each other's turn in the spotlight, so there's no muddling or competition on it, because that never looks good or sounds good.
Bluegrass is
I know that from painful experience.
Absolutely. we all do. But bluegrass is one of those things where it really is, I mean, it gets a reputation as, being a Johnny Hot Sausage kind of everyone show off your hot licks and kind of thing.
That's awesome, though.
But really, you're playing as a band and everyone's working together, and you have to know when not to play and when to shut up and play backup.
Yeah.
So he can play and sound good, and therefore make everyone sound good.
That's smart, yeah.
Not that that's not true in all styles of music. I think it is. But when you're playing acoustically and really working together, I think a lot of that stuff becomes even more important and noticeable if you're not doing it.
Oh, for sure.
And plus, with acoustic music, you're kind of out there. It's kind of naked. You're not relying on effects like you might in metal or pop music or light shows or whatever. It's like just the sound that you're hearing.
So it sounds to me what really boils down to making a good bluegrass band is chemistry with your bandmates, practice, and I mean, those are basically the two main things that you were saying right there.
Talent.
And talent. Yeah, well, not talent, but I mean, talent's practice,
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
They kind of tie into each other. Now, I guess not to really change the topic, but it is worth noting on the Central Pennsylvania Music Podcast, you are up for an award for the Central Pennsylvania Music Hall of Fame for Central Pennsylvania Music Awards for Best Bluegrass Band, correct?
Yeah, we're honored to be nominated for the third time? Second time.
Second or third. It might have been, I think the first year we may have been as well. But that might have been, I don't know.
It's a small community, and we know the folks that have won the last couple of years, and they're good friends of ours. We played with them. Colebrook Road won a couple of years ago. Seldom Said No. They're all folks we know and have played with.
The bluegrass scene, and this is, if you're in the metal world, I'm sure you understand, like, scenes are oftentimes very connected.
Absolutely, yes. I know exactly what you're saying, yes.
And the bluegrass world is no different.
No different.
I mean, and it's very, since there's a lot of festivals and, stuff like that, it's a very niche kind of style.
That is another cool thing, I mean to interrupt you, that you mentioned about festivals that's a little bit more unique to bluegrass is those are the places that we like to play a lot, so we get to hang out. If we're lucky enough that our friends or other bands that we admire are playing at the same festival, we don't just brush against them like you would in the green room at a rock gig. Sometimes we get to spend the whole weekend with them, or jam late at night and get to know them. And interact. And play
that's
together.
so true. Especially just having acoustic instruments. You're like, you got your friends in other bands. Like, hey man, you want to jam real quick? Literally, all you got to do is grab your case. You're not hauling like full stacks, half stacks. You don't need power strips and like.
There's that.
That's cool. I never even thought about that.
That actually has always been one of my very favorite things about it, because you start playing at a campsite at a festival and someone else will come over. Next thing you know, you got 10 people playing and 20 people gathered around watching, and people are coming.
You guys are all showing your licks.
Well, trying to. Or
my lick.
Trying to play. Yes.
Have you seen my lick?
Singular lick.
Exactly right.
That's awesome, I mean, dude. I mean, I told you guys off camera. Bluegrass is not really my forte, but like hearing more and more, like the way you guys speak to it, and the art and like the depth that goes with the genre. That is making the genre appeal way more to me, and it's making me have a much bigger appreciation for it that I don't think I've ever truly given it the right to have.
Yeah, and I think the other thing too is that people that don't know a lot about bluegrass associated in their mind with like old time, mountain, whiny, old folks music, and it's really, I mean, that traditional style still exists. Those people are out there, but really the successful bands these days are the ones that are mixing it with jamgrass, with rock and roll, with other styles.
Yeah,
that's where the young people enjoy seeing it with dead bands.
I was just gonna say, like, one of the things I was telling you right before we started shooting was one of the things I really like about your guys' music is you guys do have the bluegrass instrumental. You have the twang, you have the banjo, you have the fiddle, you have all the stuff that instrumentally is like, yeah, that's bluegrass. But the vocals, they're very modern, like they're very new age. Like, and I personally, I like that. Like, that's what made me. I was like, oh, I could listen to this. This does appeal to me.
I think a lot of that really started in like the 60s and 70s, where you started getting this music was leaving Kentucky and it was leaving Western North Carolina, and other people were hearing it. So you started to get people from all over that were giving it their take, putting their spin on it, singing it in a different way, Mm-hmm. So, you got guys like Sam Bush and the Dillards and, of course, Newgrass Revival. That was the first wave of like...
Yeah, younger people and hippies and deadheads kind of rescued bluegrass from life support in the 60s, basically. If it would have stayed the same and stayed only traditional, it probably would have become a really small niche music.
Change isn't always bad.
Yeah, right.
Right. And I mean, we always try to, when we play, we always try to keep some element of that original traditional sound that, ultimately drew us to the music. We try to keep some element of that, but we're not, this is a different time, and we're not from the mountains, the Blue Ridge Mountains, and it's...
You certainly don't want to be trying to imitate something that you're not.
Yeah. You mean you're not brewing moonshine the moment you're done
well,
with
we
your
didn't say
solo?
that.
Yeah, you guys aren't even wearing overalls.
That's
not
funny.
today.
Not today. So all the knowledge you guys have and like all the stuff that you've done in the past. I mean, what's on the horizon for Dead Horse Revival? What do you guys got coming up?
Well, we playing at the Wind Gap Bluegrass Festival out in Western PA on June 10th. We have a number of private events that we'll be playing lately. We're looking to add, you got to work on the next album.
Yes.
Right? That's the curse, the infamous sophomore curse is you get your album done, and then, what do we do next? So that's really the next step, is get the next batch of songs.
Which I should mention that there are some bluegrass bands out there that play a lot of, their takes on old songs.
Sure.
We play a lot of original. Everyone in the band writes. Chance, who plays guitar and sings, he writes. So we play a couple of his tunes are on the album. Scott writes, I write. So we all kind of contribute in that way as well. So that original music side of things is something that we definitely.
You guys take that
stress.
serious.
Yeah.
Because you guys are all such creatives, and that's, we've all been there. We've been in bands. Like, that's tough when everyone's a creative, and you're like, well, your idea is going to deviate from our sound, and you don't. That's if you guys figured out how to make that work. That's impressive.
Well, the original music is what you're in it for. It's what makes you special. What makes you you. I mean, there's a lot of fabulous bluegrass fiddlers and banjo players and instrumentalists who are far better than we'll ever be at doing that traditional thing and playing incredible licks really fast. I'm never going to be that guy, but they'll never be us. They'll never write our songs. They'll never sound like we sound as a band.
Yeah. So
Scott, you
love
are
that.
an inspiration.
Yeah.
Man. Like,
Amen.
Good Lord, I can
That's
listen
why
to
we
you.
can't get away from it.
on that. Yeah.
Yeah, amen.
But yeah, so that's we've been we've been kind of putting together new tunes, and we've Chance and I, like I said, Chance Hurley and I have played together for a while, and we know a good bit of each other's songs, but both of us still write. So we want to play new stuff, and we want to learn new stuff, you know, and stuff from other writers, Scott and Katie Powderly, who has been in the band for about
Your
a
bass
year
player.
and a half. Yes. Who also writes and sings.
That's
So,
awesome.
That's really good. It sounds like you guys have, not to use the word again, but really good chemistry going on, and a really great thing. That's why I really enjoy your music, and it's doing great things for you. Not just anybody. I know you say it's a small community, but I mean, I definitely know there's a decent amount of bluegrass bands out here in the area. I mean, we have bluegrass festivals in the area as well.
Oh, yeah.
In Central Pennsylvania.
Definitely.
So to be nominated, I think is certainly something that means you guys are doing something right.
We appreciate it.
Of course.
Definitely appreciate it.
And with that being said, I mean, we just talked about all hat, no saddle. Speaking of that, you guys actually have a song that you guys are going to perform for us, correct?
We do.
And what would our listeners get the privilege of listening to?
This is a song called Northbound, and it's sung by the great and powerful Scott Matlock here. I wrote it, but he sings it because no one really. You don't want to hear me sing it. Trust me.
He's very kind to let me sing his very cool song.
So that's a tune that it's kind of. My idea was that it was a twist on the old Civil War song idea of going back home to the South.
Okay.
So we're from the North, so the song's called Northbound. If I
That's-
would go back home, I would be going north.
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I really like that.
Jinx.
You owe me a Coke.
Yeah, right. Well, we're really looking forward to checking out this live performance. Thank you, gentlemen, so much for your time.
Thanks for having me.
Of
Thank
course.
you.
And I'm sure we'll see you guys around here soon, all right?
Cool.
Thanks.
Well, the sun is slowly sinking on the western side of town. I haven't ate, haven't slept, laid my body down, but I keep moving. Oh, carry on. But that train keep on going till you and I are gone. And the smell of the powder, it's sticking to my clothes. The shells and smoke and rotten flesh, streams of blood still flow, but I keep moving. Oh, carry on. But that train keep on going till you and I are gone. darkest of days, looking to the clouds above for the words to say, but we keep trying, well, trying, but that train keep on going.